Hello, everyone. The shortened NHL season is coming to an end, and in an odd twist, the playoffs are starting before that, even. It's been a tough year to call anything, especially with all the teams being restricted to only playing against their division. And the first round and the second round will be the same, but then we'll finally get to see some teams play against teams they haven't gotten to play against all year. So I'm going to go through each of these series and uh, choose who I think will win them. Starting with the North Division, we have Montreal versus Toronto. Uh, this is going to be an interesting series because at the start of the year, these two teams seemed very close. Uh, it looked like they were going to be fighting it out for the top of the division, but then after the first month ended, Montreal started to fall off, while Toronto stayed strong for the whole year mostly. Uh, I give Toronto the edge in most categories. Their top end is a lot stronger than Montreal's, I think. They have better depth, and their team just plays a better possession game to allow them to defend easier. The one edge I do give to Montreal is in goaltending, however. And while Jack Campbell has been very good, uh, he's mostly unproven in playoffs. Whereas Montreal, if they have Carey Price healthy and playing, he could steal the entire series for them. Uh, and even Jake Allen, if he's the one playing, is capable of doing that as well. Uh, However, I do still give the edge in the series to Toronto, and I have them winning it in 6 games. The next series is the Oilers versus the Jets. I've got uh, a tough time seeing the Jets do well in this series. The Oilers have a much higher offensive ability, even though that's what Winnipeg is strong at is their offense. So I think just in that sense, that's the big clash there. Um, I think even there, Edmonton beats them. And then on top of that, I think Edmonton has a better commitment to defense, though neither of these teams are particularly defensive. And while Winnipeg has a great goalie in Hellebuck who could steal some games, Smith has been awesome all year, and he historically does even better in the playoffs. So I got the Oilers winning this in 5 games. On to the West Division, we have Colorado versus St. Louis. Uh, the Avalanche ended the season very strong with a 5 game winning streak to take the top spot in the division. Uh, and now they have to play against the Blues, who they did beat in the season series, but it was pretty close. It was 5-3 for Colorado. Uh, St. Louis looked a little stronger towards the end of the year after being shaky for most of the season, and just managed to clinch the last playoff spot for that division. They still have a very similar team to when they won the championship, and they could return to that form. But Colorado is just such a dominant team all around. They have a tremendous offensive group, maybe the best line in all of hockey, with McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog. Their defense is very good and capable of helping out on the offensive side as well. And their goaltending, Grubauer, has been phenomenal all season. The one downside for them is if they have to turn to a backup goalie. Uh, each of their backup goalies this season has not been able to perform for the team. Even Dubnyk, after coming from the Sharks, arguably got even worse than when he was with the Sharks. But I still give this to Colorado, with them winning it in 5 games. Then we have Vegas versus Minnesota. And this was a surprise to see Vegas fall out of the top spot. Colorado just came on too strong at the end there. And that's probably the last thing that Vegas wanted, because all year they've struggled against Minnesota. Uh, they went 3-4-1, and only one of those wins was in regulation. So they've just continuously had a tough time playing against them. Minnesota has strong defense and good goaltending from Cam Talbot, and Kirill Kaprizov, their rookie, could uh, create some goal scoring opportunities for them. But I think Vegas will still end up winning in a 7-game series. And so, yeah, I have Vegas winning, and it will take the entire 7 games for them to win. And I think that'll be a very close series to watch. On to the other side. In the East Division, we have Pittsburgh versus the Islanders. And this might surprise some people, this series. The Penguins had a bit of an iffy start finding their goaltending, and the Islanders started extremely strong, and goaltending and team defense has been their strength all year. But after about the halfway mark of the season, things started to switch. The Penguins really got going and ended up on the top of the division, whereas the Islanders started to fall off and ended up just getting the last playoff berth. I do think that this will be one of the upsets. I think that the Islanders will regain their form, and they'll, with Trotz behind the bench, they'll just completely shut down the Penguins' offense, making it tough for them to find any opportunities. The last time they played in the playoffs, the Islanders swept the Penguins. I don't think that'll happen again this year, but I do have the Islanders taking it in 6 games. Then we have Washington versus Boston. This should be an entertaining series. The two most disliked players in Wilson and Marchand playing against each other could make for a lot of fun. And also seeing Zdeno Chara playing against his old team for this whole series will be interesting. Normally, I would say that Washington has this in the bag, but they have some health questions with Samsonov and Kuznetsov on COVID protocols right now, and Oshie is listed day to day. So their goaltending is questionable, but I assume they'll start their rookie goalie Vanacek, but if he doesn't have a very good start, they'll turn to the veteran Craig Anderson. And I think the entire outcome of the series will come down to how their goaltending does. The Bruins, I am certain, will bring their consistent game, whereas Washington, it'll be, if the goaltending goes well, they could end up stealing this whole series in 4 or 5 games, but I think it'll end up taking the entire series. But I still have Washington winning it in 7. Then we have Carolina versus Nashville. This one seemed like it should be an easy call for Carolina, with them dominating most of the season and Nashville struggling and often looking like they wouldn't make the playoffs. But towards the end there, Carolina had some health issues. A lot of their key players went down. And Nashville came on really strong at the end. They got really hot. So I think a lot of this series will be dependent on if those key players can come back for Carolina. They are expected to. And if Nashville can stay hot. Nashville's very hard to call. They tend to be pretty streaky. So maybe their hot streak continues into the playoffs. But I'm going to go with the safer bet and have Carolina winning it in 6 games. And then lastly, we have the Florida Panthers versus Tampa Bay Lightning. The Battle of Florida. It's going to be interesting this year. Florida has been very strong all year, but they play a very offensive style, which tends to not lean well into the playoffs. And Tampa has had a lot of injuries all year, though Kucherov and Stamkos are both expected to be back for the first round. So I think it depends on if they are healthy or not. I don't know if they're going to play at their best, especially after just winning the cup and having a long series. I don't see them continuing on this year, but they could just come back and be that same dominant championship team they were last year. But I'll give Florida the win in 7 games. So that's my predictions for this round. I think it'll get more interesting as we get to see the different teams play against each other finally in the third round. Uh, it's going to be a tough year to call the whole way through, and I'm excited to watch it. Thanks for watching.